Today we're going to be talking about a really short-lived series called Here Come the Brides that aired in 1968 on ABC television. But I want to tell you to stick with me through this video because we're going to touch on a really unbelievable story about an actor in Hollywood named Bobby Sherman that completely flipped the tables on the way a superstar acts. He completely shifts gears and goes in a totally different direction than you've ever seen anybody do before in Hollywood. We'll get to him in just a bit. The series is loosely based on the life of Asa Mercer, who was the first president of the Territorial University of Washington. He was also a Washington state senator and a resident of Seattle. He made 3 19th century voyages where he sailed to New England to recruit eligible women to move to the Pacific Northwest, where there was a really extreme imbalance in the ratio of men to women. The first group of these reached Seattle May 16, 1864, and then he made 2 more trips that were less successful, but he ended up marrying one of the women, Annie Stevens. The major characters in the series are the Bolt brothers, Jason, Jeremy, and Joshua, played by Robert Brown, Bobby Sherman, and David Soul. And the real beauty of the show is Candy Pruitt, played by Bridget Handley. In and around the year 1865, near Seattle, these 3 brothers run a successful logging company on nearby Bridal Veil Mountain, the business and property that their parents left them when they died. The job provides a good income for the workers and this region and a decent life for the brothers. But the real problem is a real unique one. The loggers who work for them are at their wits' end, and they're just ready to give up and quit their great wages and their excellent lives, all because of one thing: the lack of love on this mountain. They're completely frustrated to death with the lack of women. This mountain is so remote that there just simply are not any young, respectable women that are available for the men to court, fall in love with, and marry. In order to keep his men on the job, Jason ends up striking a deal. He promises to bring in 100 women to the area, and he guarantees that they'll stay there for 1 full year. Now, the Bolt brothers just don't have that kind of money to finance the travel of 100 women west. With reluctance, they turn to Aaron Stemple, the local owner of a sawmill, to get a loan. He's got his eyes on the boys' land that is rich with lumber. But you see, the boys are in a bind, so when Aaron offers the money with one condition, they are forced to accept his offer. That condition is that if one woman leaves before the year ends, the Bolt brothers will default on the loan, and the mountain property, all of the land that they inherited, will be deeded to Aaron, all the way across the country in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Women are hard-pressed to find eligible young men to marry because they lost so many soldiers in the Civil War. When the brothers arrive, they find out, to their astonishment, that the women are filling a variety of jobs traditionally performed by men. They initially meet Candy Pruitt while she's working on a fire engine. It takes a whole bunch of persuasive skills and quite a bit of scheming, too, to convince her. But Candy finally agrees to find women who agree to make the journey west. Once they get back west, the rough conditions and that very simple lifestyle of a small town in the Pacific Northwest is a complete contrast to the relatively comfortable and convenient lifestyle that they lived in the bustling town in Massachusetts. The women become very disillusioned. Candy ends up falling into the role of the leader among the women, and this is after the brothers end up convincing her to stay. She manages to get the women to give it a shot for a year. It also helps that she and young Jeremy are developing a sweet attraction for each other. As they settle into their routines in the West, The men and women start to mingle. You see relationships develop, rivalries form, and you see old Aaron constantly doing his best to get the brothers to lose their bet and default on the loan. When conflicts arise, though, saloon owner Lottie Hatfield, played by Joan Blondell, is often the one that mediates the problems. Isn't it funny how in all these Western series, it seems like the saloon owner is the voice of reason? In this show, the women just adore her, and she becomes really a mother figure to them all. It is inferred that the Bolt brothers immigrated to the U.S. from Scotland with their parents as young boys, and this is implied when they receive a surprise visit from their Uncle Duncan, who is their father's twin. And he goes on to reminisce about last seeing Jeremy as a toddler, and they reminisce about the old family estate in Scotland, as well as commenting that they never expected him to ever leave Scotland. Gail Colby appeared as Lottie Hatfield in the original 1968 unaired pilot of Here Come the Brides, and she really was a potential love interest for the character of Jason Bolt. But after filming this pilot, the character was rewritten to be more of a mother figure to the brides rather than a love interest to Jason. And that's when they decided to replace Gail Colby with Joan Blondell. Before the pilot aired, Gail's scenes were deleted and newly filmed scenes with Joan were inserted in. Joan Blondell continued as Lottie in all 52 aired episodes of the 2 seasons that the series ran. Bobby Sherman and David Soul were propelled into pop stardom as Jason's brothers, Jeremy and Joshua. Jeremy took a real prominent role, not only as the boyfriend of Candy Pruitt, who is the beautiful unofficial leader of the Brides, but also a young man that had a stammer in his speech. In one particular episode, he is temporarily able to manage his stammer following the coaching by a traveler who comes through Seattle. After he discovers that his benefactor is actually a con artist and nothing more, his faith is completely broken and shaken so deeply that the stammer returns. Now, actually, before there were these teen heartthrobs like Sean Cassidy and even David Cassidy, there was Bobby Sherman. At the height of his career, he had a hit TV series and a bunch of smash singles, plus the adoration of millions of teeny bopper fans. He was featured in the magazines 16 and Tiger Beat numerous times. Initially, when he was 20 years old, he was studying child psychology at Pierce College in L.A. when a girlfriend of his took him to a cast party for the movie The Greatest Story Ever Told. He made a huge splash singing a few songs with a band whose members he knew from high school in Santa Monica. Among the people that were at that party who caught a glimpse of his impromptu gig were Natalie Wood, Jane Fonda, and Sal Mineo. Just a few days after this party, an agent showed up that was tipped off by the party guest, and they sent Bobby to an audition for a new television series, a spot that he landed in a show called Shindig. There was a primetime rock and roll review that lasted from 1964 to 1966. He began cutting records for Decca and Cameo Parkway, but really his singing career didn't take off until 1968, and that's when he starred in Here Come the Brides. Within months of this show, Bobby Mania was going full force. Weekdays were spent taping the show. On the weekends, he would head for the recording studio or hit the road. Then the gold records started coming in, with Hey Little Woman, Julie Do You Love Me, and Easy Come, Easy Go. His popularity started to wane a little bit in the 70s after the cancellation of Here Come the Brides. But he went on to be in a few TV shows in guest starring roles like The Mod Squad, The Love Boat, and Murder, She Wrote. But the big turning point in his life was at the time that he guest starred on an episode of the Jack Webb television series emergency. This is where he found a totally new calling. The heck with being a teenage heartthrob. The heck with being an actor. This guest spot on this show introduced him to the life of an emergency medical technician. He immediately went and got trained for this and left the public spotlight. He went on to volunteer with the Los Angeles Police Department and developed a real relationship with them, training other paramedics and giving CPR classes and first aid classes. He then became a technical reserve police officer with the Los Angeles County Police Department in the 1990s. And this was a position that he held until 2017. For more than a decade, he served as a medical training officer for the Los Angeles Police Academy. He instructed thousands of police officers in first aid and CPR. I just find this truly amazing that this guy gave up stardom to be a first responder. When he left Hollywood, he never looked back. The rest of his working career was spent helping other people. I really enjoyed this show as a kid. It's a fun show to watch. And thank you so much, Bobby Sherman, for the example that you've led for the rest of Hollywood. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.